76, 76.
Well, hello and welcome along to episode 24 of the Tennis Asia podcast. And on this pod, it's all about the up-and-comers. We'll talk about the rise of a new, exciting young generation from India as Eddie chats with freelance tennis journalist Haresh Ramchandani. And we'll also touch on another fast-rising star from the other side of the continent. Joining me, as ever, Mr. Tennis Asia himself. Eddie, how are you?
Good. It's been a while since our last podcast, but here we are again, and it's been an exciting little week for Tennis Asia, and especially for the young ones.
There's been plenty going on. We're obviously going to talk about India first, a lad more known for cricket bats than for tennis rackets. The L&T Mumbai Open has just finished on the ladies' side, appropriately held at the Mumbai Cricket Club. It was won by Jill Teichmann, although a Tennis Asia representative was in the final. But an interesting and fun tournament.
Yeah, it has been an interesting tournament. Yeah, WTA 125 in Mumbai. And yeah, so basically I got to speak to Haresh about the tournament. I believe he was at the tournament all week. And yes, it ended up being a very interesting tournament. Obviously, being in India, from the perspective of the Indian tennis world, tennis fans, because of the young player who did remarkably, Maaya Rajeshwaran Revathi. She's only 15, and so yeah, a lot to talk about there.
Oh yeah, well let's get into it. Haresh is a freelance tennis journalist, writes for tennis majors, obviously for India Tennis Daily as well. And you caught up with him. I'd love to say you caught up with him in Mumbai. He was in Mumbai. You were in Seoul. Let's hear it.
Okay, today on the Tennis Asia podcast, I'm pleased to welcome Haresh Ramchandani. Hope I'm saying your name correctly. You are a freelance tennis writer for, I think you're based in Mumbai, is that right?
Correct. Yeah, I'm based in Mumbai. I currently write for a couple of publications, Sports Krida, Tennis Majors, and also contribute to Indian Tennis Daily, which covers Indian tennis players across the globe.
And of course, being based in Mumbai was very convenient because we've just had the WTA 125 tournament in Mumbai, and I guess you've been covering that tournament all week. Obviously, we talk about Asian tennis on this podcast, but yeah, in a way, the tournament couldn't really have gone much better from a sort of Indian tennis perspective. And yeah, I think it took a lot of people by surprise because obviously the big story of the week was Maaya Rajeshwaran Revathi, who is only 15 years of age, but managed to not only qualify, but then go all the way to the semifinals, where she lost to, I think, Jill Teichmann, who is obviously went on to win the tournament.
Right.
So just first of all, I want to talk about, Maaya. I mean, I guess you probably knew about her a little bit before this tournament started. So, yeah, and I've heard that she was training at the Rafa Nadal Academy, and as I understand, she is going to move there at some point, right? But first of all, I want to talk about Maaya, and just if you could just tell me a little bit about her background and coming into this. So
Sure. So Maaya's been, she was born in south of India, in Coimbatore, which is in the south of India. She started playing tennis at the age of 8 as an after-school activity. Got really kind of hooked into the sport and was very good at it. And then decided, I think with her parents' backing, she got better coaching. She was coaching in her city as well, Coimbatore, and she decided that she wanted to kind of pursue this, more seriously. So she's been rising she's been on the junior scene in India for the last few years. She won the under 12 nationals 3 years ago. Out here. She started doing well at the junior circuit internationally as well. She won a few junior titles on the ITF circuit in 2023. Even last year, she won a couple of titles. She won a J300 recently. So there was a lot of kind of promise being shown at the junior level. And of course, the people who follow Indian tennis very closely out here, we were aware of her, obviously. I hadn't seen her play myself personally before this week. It was kind of I mean, she was well known in the Indian tennis community and the fan circle, but I don't think anybody was expecting her to do this well this soon at the WTA 125. So, like you said, she had also been invited to kind of train at the Nadal Academy last year. I think in the second half of last year, she went there for a few weeks. She liked the place; they liked her, and I believe she's been offered a 1-year contract now. She'll be based out there. She's moving there after this sometime this month. She'll be based out there at the Nadal Academy. She'll even go to school out there that they have at the Nadal Academy. So it's a very promising story. That's about her background, you know, and she really was the story of the week at the Mumbai Open.
Yeah, and a lot of things to talk about there. I mean, obviously, starting at 8 is actually, you said she started at 8 years of age. It's a bit later than some of what you hear other professionals start. So yeah, to go from that to what she's doing now is very impressive. And yeah, I mean, just the fact, obviously, that she was accepted into the Rafa Nadal Academy, obviously, tells you that she has some talent. But I mean, she's still only 15 and she's barely got going even in the juniors, and already she's reaching the semi-finals here in a WTA 125, which is a fairly high level tournament. So yeah, this is maybe quite unusual. So yeah, obviously I can understand people must be getting excited there in India. Just tell me, what is it the reception been like in India? Can you sort of gauge, what's how big is this at the moment?
I think there's a lot of excitement, about her. The fact that she won a few matches in qualifying, made it to the main draw, and then won 3 matches, all 3 setters. She was really kind of, she played really well. She was kind of really impressing the crowds. The crowds at her matches were quite a big crowd, I would say, for a 125 kind of tournament. Most of her matches went to a full house when she was playing. So the reception has been very positive. She also has a couple of sponsors backing her before this tournament as well. There's Lakshya Sports and there's Amalgam Steel, 2 companies that were sponsoring her before the tournament. So she does have some sponsorship before this. Obviously, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more interest in her. But just obviously, I think when it comes to Indian tennis, especially women's tennis, everybody's been waiting for the next big star after Sania Mirza, who did really well for us, top 30 singles, world number 1 in doubles. Obviously, a lot of comparisons already to Sania, and is she the new Sania Mirza, the next Sania Mirza, things like that. But as you said, and as she herself said that it's one match for her. She has another match to go. It's one tournament, one good week. She has to go back to training. She's very kind of level-headed. Didn't get too carried away by her success in the first few rounds, and said, you have to take it one match at a time, or one week at a time. Keep working hard. Put my head down and just keep working. And she's surrounded by, her parents and her coach, who was working with her in India. I think they reinforced that kind of attitude and belief in her that they need to keep working hard. Take it 1 week at a time, one match at a time, and not get too carried away by the attention now that's coming. There's obviously a lot of attention on social media, in the press about her, in the sports publications, in the national papers, online on Twitter as well. She's obviously kind of the story of the moment. So the reception is very positive. There's a lot of excitement. As usual, we kind of get very excited when something new comes up like this unexpectedly, and she's so young, a lot of potential. And hopefully, I mean, with the academy that she's going to now, she'll get better opportunities in terms of training, coaching, a base in Europe, and she'll hopefully be able to kind of fulfill the potential that a lot of people see in her.
Yeah, and of course you've spent like the week in Mumbai, and you've probably had time to talk to her quite a bit. I've seen a little bit of her speaking. She does come across as very mature for her age, and yeah, quite level-headed. I mean, I guess that's maybe the impression that you got as well.
Definitely, that's something. I mean, besides the game was one thing, I mean, she had a fantastic game. She was very poised and calm on the court, even when it was stressful situations, break points down, things like that. But the way she kind of comes across and speaks, when she speaks to the media, or when she was addressing the fans after the matches, and I've seen some of that in some other videos before this tournament, so I knew that she was a very good speaker. But just meeting her in person, hearing her speak at 15, she's very eloquent for somebody her age. She expresses herself very well, very clearly. And the one thing that also struck me was how kind of determined and hungry she was. Because a couple of quotes that really stuck out to me when she said, when somebody asked her in one of the press conferences, was which of your losses hurt you the most, a recent loss that hurt you really badly? And her answer was very kind of matter of fact. She said, every loss for me is a disaster. That kind of showed that she's really kind of really wants it bad. And another one where she said, when they talked about winning a first round match, and then the second round match, she said, it's not enough. I want to. One victory is not enough. I want to be world number one. I want to win a Grand Slam, and things like that. So the ambition is there. The determination. She's hungry. She has that fire in the belly that drives people to become champions, I think. So that's kind of innate desire to be better. And even the coaches that I spoke to, I spoke to her coach in India, Manoj Kumar, who had been training her for the past few years. And I also I spoke over a call with the lead coach that's working with her at the Rafa Nadal Academy for the past couple of months. They both said she's extremely hardworking. She's a very quick learner. She's really happy to spend time watching tennis and observing and learning new things and trying to implement them. So those are all really great attributes to become, a really good player.
Yeah, that's good to hear that she is really interested in the game itself as well, because that's just might surprise some people, but that isn't always the case. That has to sort of be drummed into them. But yeah, that's obviously nice to hear. And then yeah, I mean, the impression that I got, yeah, obviously she is, as we say, she's got a maturity about her, but yeah, it did also come across that she seems ambitious and is confident in herself. She knows that she's good, and she wants to push herself as far as possible. Definitely believe that's the case. And yeah, it's something that seems to bode well for her future. Let's talk a bit about the tournament, how it went. Obviously, some good performances in there. Tell me about what you think about her game at the moment, and what stands out about her tennis wise.
I think her game, she has a very solid all-round game. I mean, obviously, she wasn't coming to net too much at this point. She was playing. She's an aggressive baseliner, so her first serve was pretty good. I would say very good for a 15-year-old. I'm sure as she grows up and kind of with age, she'll add some more power to that. She can hit winners off both her flanks in terms of forehand or backhand. If she's able to set up the point, she can hit winners off both sides. She moves really well. She covers the court really well. I don't think that would be called a weakness. I mean, it'll only improve over time. So, I mean, she was covering the court really well. She was throwing in a few slices at times when she was kind of off position. So she has that kind of. That was a few times, but I mean, that showed that she could. She just wasn't going for a two-hander backhand every time. She was trying to slice it sometimes when she was out of position. And she has a very good drive volley. I think every time she came up with a big shot, and she got a kind of a mid-air ball, she was kind of hitting very good drive volleys. So Obviously, the second serve needs some work, but I guess she's just 15, so I'm sure that'll improve over time. But I think just an all-round game, very good kind of, very athletic kind of athlete person, very good ground strokes of both sides, a good first serve. So I think just a really good game overall.
Yeah, from what I did see, she did seem to be already quite well rounded as a player. And, as a 15-year-old, you're maybe thinking, maybe physically she's maybe not going to be quite there yet. But I was quite surprised, yeah, that actually she was, even defending pretty well at times. And it's not always easy against some of these bigger players. I mean, obviously, I think, Teichmann, who went on to win the tournament, she had a level extra in terms of power. So that was probably a nice learning experience for her because she's probably not used to, mostly just been playing, juniors, right, so far in her career. So, yeah, I mean, it's impressive. And of course, she's only 15. So, yeah, she's still got time probably to grow physically, but still a long way to develop in her game. So, yeah, it's pretty. I mean, like, how do you feel? Because sometimes I get excited about young players, and then I worry, like, is it? We don't want to hype them too much, but I mean, this is. I mean, we haven't had many, especially on the women's side, players from India. This must be quite exciting for you, obviously, as a tennis fan, but a watcher of Indian tennis. I mean, what's the expectation? How far can she go, do you think?
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of excitement. I think growing up, the first Indian woman the only Indian woman that I'd seen, rise up the ranks was Sania Mirza, and I remember that time was really exciting for, especially me. I'm sure a lot of other Indian tennis fans that, when she started coming onto the Grand Slam scene. I remember her first match against Serena Williams. It was on the national news. The scores were being updated on the national news when the set was over. It was being on the national news as a flash when Sania was playing Serena in the third round of the Australian Open. So I think this is the most exciting I have felt about women's tennis in India since that time. Obviously, like you said, you want to hype, you want to kind of encourage it, but not overhype it and put too much expectation on her. And it's interesting. I was reading all the articles about her. One article said, "Is she the new Sanya?" And another one said, "Let's not put too much expectations. She's only 15. She's had a good week. Let's give her time to kind of build into the player that she has to become and the person that she has to become." So I guess both points are valid, but I personally think that there's a lot of upside still to her. I mean, when she grows up a little with her age, there'll definitely be more power. There'll be more kind of match experience. I mean, this was the first time I think she was playing a top 300 player in the world. It was just a fifth pro event, and she beat like players in the ranked in the 200s. I think two or three of them were in the 200s ranking. One was around 450 or 460. Against Jill, like you said, Jill had a little extra firepower. Also, Jill being left-handed. Before the match, Maaya said that she doesn't like playing left-handed players too much because she's not had too much experience with them. I think that also probably played a role in the straight sets loss, and even the fact that she won three kind of matches in the main draw in 3 sets. So she was able to go 3 sets against those players and win those matches. That kind of showed that she's really up for the fight. And she played like 6 matches through the week, which was kind of a much higher level, than the ITF junior level that she'd been playing with the other girls. The level of competition here, she mentioned that in a press conference as well, that the rallies are a lot longer, the matches are more intense at this level than the juniors. But she still got through the semifinals, and that's when she said at the end of it that I think my legs were a bit tired. By the time it was the semifinal, she didn't feel her legs were moving as well on Saturday. As well as Jill's game, obviously, and the fact that she was left-handed created more problems for her. She said Jill was playing maybe above her shoulder level, so some of the balls she was struggling to get back to above her shoulder level. So yeah, but I think there's a lot of upside. I'm very excited. I'm going to go up, put myself on the line and say I think she has top 100 potential definitely, and from there where she goes is really up to her. She can stay injury free. Once she gets into the top 100 and plays the regular events. Obviously there are a lot of other factors, but I'm very excited about her future.
yeah, when in that tournament, she came through. I think it was Zarina Diaz, although I think Diaz actually retired in that match. But Diaz, a player that was once up near top 30, and Jill, you were talking about, she was a former
21.
I think she was 21 in the world. Yeah, so yeah, and honestly, the way she played that week, she went on to win the tournament. She was showing. I mean, she's outside the top 100 now. She was playing, I think, a much higher level than that in the moment. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's been a great week for her, and probably maybe it's okay to get a little bit carried away at the moment, because it's not common that we see this. But yeah, of course, still got to actually get down and do the hard work and get that experience and build. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how she does this year and the years ahead. Now, another player that is also another teenager that caught the world of tennis by surprise, and Indian tennis, is Manas Dhamne. Am I saying his name correct? Manas
Manas
Dhamne, who is barely 17 years of age. And he actually won his first pro title. That was ITF tournament in Manas Dhamne. It's the 15K, so that's the lowest level of tournament. But nonetheless, for a player who is barely 17 years of age, it is impressive. And I just had a look at the number of matches that he's won this year. Of course, it's just ITF and ITF qualifying, but he's played 21 and lost 3. So correct. Yeah, I think it's not easy to do that, no matter how good you are. So yeah, I mean, Manas is someone that I first noticed because he was practicing with Yannick Sinner. I think that was the first time I really became aware of him. Although I know he had a wild card, I think, at the tournament in Pune and played. So he did play one ATP match already. I think he lost that in straight sets. But obviously training with Sinner, I mean, I guess that come about because he's been training in Italy, right, at the Piatti Academy, which is the same academy that Yannick Sinner started at, right? So, yeah, just first of all, obviously been a good week for him. Could you tell me a little bit about Manas and his background?
So Manas again is he's been on our radar for a while now back in Indian tennis circles. He won the under 12 Eddie Her title, which was the first for an Indian a few years ago when he was just under 12. And then he's been playing the junior circuit. He played the junior circuit. After that, I was checking his record. I think he made the top 50 in the juniors in the world. Like you said, he got the wild card last year in the main draw. He lost in straight sets. He's not been playing the junior circuit at all. I think after the 2023 US Open, he's just played one junior event last year in 2024. He's been concentrating on the pro circuit, the ITF circuit. He has been kind of based at the PRD Tennis Center in Italy. That's where he's kind of based currently, and he's working out there with Riccardo Piatti, like you said, the former coach of Yannick Sinner. So again, we've been kind of waiting for him to kind of get to that next level and put up a good show on the Pro Tour, and I think this week was that. Like you said, he's played a lot of matches this year. He's played. That's because he had to play the qualifying in each of those futures events, where he had to play 3 rounds of qualifying just to make the main draw. He's won 21 of 24 matches this year. We expect him. I think we expect him to play. There are a couple of challenges lined up in India in the coming weeks. It's a whole 4-week circuit. There was Chennai last week, Delhi this week, Pune, and then Bangalore. We expect him to be in India for those the second kind of half of those challengers. And like you said, now he's going to be top 800 after this win in the next rankings next week. So he doesn't have to play qualifying at the ITF level anymore. He'll probably get a direct entry into those ITF future events, which will kind of help him cut down matches. He'll be more fresher for the matches. again, so then he's been somebody we've been looking out for, and now I think this is the week that he's finally come up to that level, won his first pro title, and I think it's only going to do his confidence a world of good.
Yeah, and he's now up in the rankings, right? So he is up to what's the ranking now? You said around.
I think in this week his ranking, I think because it's ITF, it gets added with a 1 week lag, so they'll get added.
Right.
It's currently just outside top 1,000. Next Monday he'll go up to top 800, 790s somewhere.
Right, and I think I saw that he is the second youngest player in the top 1,000, or even something like that.
He's among the younger players in the top 1,000. Yeah.
Yeah, he will be. So yeah, obviously that's very good. And in terms of him as a player, have you seen him much play? What is he like stylistically, and what sort of stands out about his game?
I saw him last year in Pune. I was there for that match when he played the Tata Open, the ATP event, the main draw, when he lost in straight sets. So I saw that match in the stands. I was watching that one. Again, he's a baseline player. He's well built. He's kind of physically well built for an Indian. One of the sites listed, I think the ATP site listed him as 6 foot, 6 feet, and another site said 6 feet 2 inches. Maybe he's grown a bit, but he's tall. Like by 6 feet is tall for Indian standards, so that's good. He can hit the ball well with a lot of power. Obviously, last year when I saw him, there was still, I think the kind of level of play was a lot higher on the opponent's side. It was his first experience at the ATP level, but he was hitting some good ground strokes in that match as well. So he's predominantly a baseline player, good serve, good ground strokes. I haven't seen him since that match, to be honest. I haven't seen a match of his after that, but I'm sure the work that he's been doing with PRT at the PRT Tennis Center, being based in Europe, it's only going to improve him physically as well as his kind of overall game. So I'm looking forward to actually catching him. I'm going to be in Bangalore at the end of the month for the Challenger, and I'm hoping he's going to be there as well, and I'll probably get a closer look at his game.
Are you still in Mumbai just right now?
Yeah, Mumbai is where I'm based. I stay in Mumbai, so I'm going to travel for the Challenger that week when it happens.
So you think he's going to play in, you said Pune, and then...
That's the expectation. There's no official announcement yet on the wildcards.
Right.
He's probably likely high on the wildcard kind of list for that tournament because he's also from Maharashtra, which is the state where Pune is. But there's no official word yet. I think the official word will come out towards the end of this week. But I'm sure he, unless he's choosing not to apply for a wildcard for some scheduling reasons, or if he's kind of really exhausted after playing so many matches, I think if he applies for a wild card, he'll probably get one at least in the qualies, if not the main draw.
Yeah, so if anyone's interested in, looking at him, you'll be able to watch him on the Challenger TV, or perhaps it'll be on TV as well in India, right? So the Pune Challenger perhaps, and then Bangalore. So that's something I'll be looking forward to if he is playing there. Because I think, he's probably earned the wild card with the winning the title there in Monastir this week, and he's obviously playing at a decent level. For me, I haven't seen him so much, but it's maybe harder to gauge sort of what the expectations are for Manas. Do you have any sort of sort of hopes or thoughts on where he can go, at the moment in his game?
So, like I said, I haven't seen him since over a year. The last time I saw him was when he played the ATP match. I'm sure his game has improved a lot, but generally in the Indian tennis community, there are a lot of hopes on him. I think he's one of the he is the brightest prospect among the guys at that age, in that age bracket. He's a lot of hopes on him. He's got a good opportunity to work with an international coach like PRT, being based in Europe. He's sponsored by IMG currently, so IMG have him. So I'm sure there are a lot of opportunities that are going to come with that kind of tie-up. So he has a good base in terms of his game. He has the right opportunities, the right coaching and training. There are a lot of hopes, but a lot of things could happen. In terms of how careers pan out. But there are a lot of hopes on him, and we're looking forward to how he progresses over the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what's exciting, I suppose, because I look at Indian tennis, but also, Asian tennis in general. I think it's exciting for me to see Manas and Maaya coming around at the same time, because obviously India is a big, huge country, right? But it hasn't really had, and at least recently, sort of the top players competing in singles, especially. We've had some top doubles players, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, I mean, for me, I think it would be, yeah, obviously don't want to hype them too much, but I think it's a reasonable expectation, perhaps, that these could be players playing on the WTA and ATP tours, which is, I think, in itself would be pretty exciting for Indian tennis, just to have any players playing regularly in that sort of level. So I think that's something that perhaps we can look forward to. Of course, tennis, in India it's been more known, I guess, recently for the doubles. I mean, you've had a lot of doubles players, but I mean, we talked about Sania Mirza, who went to the top in the women's side, but most recently we've got Rohan Bopanna, who last year at the age of 43, I think, it was 43, wasn't it? He got to number one in the world for the first time, and he won the Australian Open alongside Matthew Ebden. And I think, he spent a few weeks at number one last year. And we did like a top 10 Asian players of last year, and he made, I think it was number two, he put them in at, just because of that, because that is, it's a great achievement there. And also another player that made it there was Sumit Nagal, because I think I think it's the indication that, there hasn't been too much success on the single side, because I think Nagal last year he won that match against Bublik in the Australian Open, and then that was the first time an Indian player had beaten a seed at a slam for many years. I mean, I think it was back in since '89 or something like that. So
yeah, I think it was '89 when Ramesh Krishnan beat Wilander at the Australian Open.
And I suppose that's, for me, is, I mean, because I think, Sumit's, he had his injuries as well, which was also what made that an interesting story, because, he had to come back after spending time out with hip injury. I think he had surgery, right? So, but I suppose with Sumit, he's a player that's sort of, he's got into the top 100, but he's sort of in and out of challengers and the main tour events. I think he's playing main tour at the moment. So I guess, the expectation is, maybe India's hoping for someone that's going to push on a little bit further. But I just wanted to get you, of course, Bopanna, he got to number one, and that was a big story. Just how big news was that in India? I mean, how much coverage did that sort of get?
It did. I mean, it made the national news. It made the national papers on the front pages. So it was definitely big news, because especially at his age, we've had success before, like I said, but someone at his age doing it first Grand Slam and becoming world number one, it kind of was all tied in together. So it made big news. And also we have been getting a lot of kind of success in doubles. I think that kind of also boosted kind of the other kind of doubles players. They actually have a whole special program. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but it's called the Dare to Dream India program. It's a program where they support all the players ranked in the top 200 in Indian doubles on the men's side. It's funded by a gentleman, Mr. Kishore Patil, who's a businessman. They have kind of support kind of given to players, training given to the players. They have coaches and physios traveling with these players when they play tournaments on the ATP tour. They have a camp twice a year, at least twice a year, where they kind of have a 2-week camp in the middle of the season, at the end of the season. This time the end of the season was in Mumbai, so I attended some of that out here as well. So there's a lot of focus on the doubles program out there, and now I think we have, last time I checked, was about 11 players in the top 150 in the doubles, and about 5 to 7 players in the top 100, depending on the week. It keeps changing. So yeah, they're all hoping now to kind of, a lot more of them have come into the Grand Slam level, playing the main draw of Grand Slams. There's a lot of kind of intention to kind of get all of them into the Grand Slam main draws, and hopefully one of them will kind of replicate what Bopanna has done.
Yeah, and sort of bring it back to Manas Dhamne. I saw that he's the second youngest player to win a second youngest man to win a pro title, and the youngest was actually I think Yuki Bambri, who of course he did have his own singles career and got up inside the top 100. But I know that he had injuries, but he is back and doing pretty well as a doubles player, right?
Right, he's I think he's 46 this week in the doubles ranking. So he's kind of climbed. He decided to focus on doubles because his injuries do not let him compete at the level that he wanted to in singles. So the last couple of years, he's focused exclusively on doubles, and he's had good success. He's a number 2 player in doubles right now. He's number 46, and he's still young. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he must be around 30 or around that age. So I mean, going by Bopana standards, he has another decade to kind of be out there on the tour if he wants to. So yeah, he's been doing pretty well, and a lot of the other guys are also in their early 30s. Some of them are in their late 30s. We have Ritvik Bolapalli Chaudhary, who's I think number 80, around the top 80, and he's actually the youngest player in the top 180. He's 24. He's the youngest player in the top 80 in the world currently in the doubles ranking. So yeah, there's a lot of excitement in doubles. Obviously, it does not get the same level of attention and coverage as the singles players would, but still, it's as a tennis fan in India and somebody who follows the sport, it's really interesting to see these guys now get into the main draws of ATPs, be seated at them. Sriram Balaji seated this week with his partner in one of the ATP events that's happening this week. So, I mean, it's exciting. I mean, obviously, singles is better in terms of getting the attention and as a sport to be followed, but there's a lot of interest in doubles as well, and a kind of following for that.
Yeah, obviously a lot of success in doubles, but yeah, we'd obviously like to see tennis in general get more exposure. How is tennis in India in terms of like how popular is it? I mean, of course, I guess the most popular sport in India is probably cricket, right? How does it compare to that in terms of popularity?
I think nothing compares to cricket in terms of popularity. So there's cricket, and then there's everything else. So I think if you talk about everything else, tennis is fairly popular, I would say, among the other sports. A lot of people follow it. Unfortunately, I think one of the things that has kind of hurt kind of tennis in India is the lack of coverage on television. I think growing up a few years back, I remember watching a lot more ATP and WTA events on television. Now it's up to kind of there are some ATP events still being broadcasted on television. Of course, the Grand Slams get covered here, all the 4 Grand Slams, but the WTA has been kind of absent completely in the last couple of years on television. So it's up to kind of users to then kind of subscribe to Tennis TV or WTA TV to follow kind of that. Hopefully, with more success in singles, some of that will change. I mean, I'm sure if Maaya and Sumit and some of Manas get into the bigger tournaments and playing them, I'm sure they'll be covered on TV. I think that's something that's hurt. But otherwise, that it's fairly popular. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in paddle and pickleball as well now in India, like in the rest of the world. Some of the casual fans who play the sport, I think, are heading towards that. But I think overall, as a sport, it's still among the more popular sports besides cricket in the country.
Okay, yeah, and yeah, of course, we'd be hoping, Maaya and Manas as well can kick on and perhaps build the sport even more and maybe get WTA back on the TV again. But great. Okay, thanks very much for joining me, Haresh. It's been really good to speak to you about these players and about Indian tennis. You are writing mostly. If people want to find you, where can they find you on, like if they want to follow you?
I think most of my stuff is out on Twitter with the hashtag, with my ID. It's R1979 Harry. So and I mostly write for Sportskeeda and Tennis Majors. So I have if you search for me on Google with Haresh Ramchandani Sportskeeda or Haresh Ramchandani Tennis Majors, you'll find the link to all my work on those websites. I think that would be the best place as well. Yeah, and I've been trying to do a lot more content around the tournaments I attend on Instagram. Some quick interviews that I keep posting on Instagram in collaboration with Indian Tennis Daily. So short video content is probably out there there on Instagram.
Great. Okay. And that wraps up, I think. So thanks very much, Haresh.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
So plenty of exciting things going on in India. Now, moving on, we've got another new hottest property. Tennis moves so fast, obviously. We say tennis never stops. It never stops progressing either. But Sonobe Wakana is the new hottest property in Asian tennis. She's a 17-year-old from Japan. She's been an IMG player since 2022, so we can expect in the future some very polished press conference and interview answers. And if the past few weeks are anything to go by, a lot of people are going to want to speak to her as well. She's the girls' singles champion at the Australian Open, and she's since seamlessly made strides onto the main tour. It's been an exciting few weeks.
Yeah, it certainly has. And of course, another team from the Asian continent, sort of, taking everyone by surprise. I mean, of course, we often see players do, from anywhere. Obviously, you get Grand Slam champions at the juniors level, and it takes a while for them to sort of progress onto the senior stage, even though they're dominant perhaps at that junior level, they find themselves playing some of these bigger players and getting thumped, let's be honest. And it takes a while for them to develop their game and get to the level that they are competitive. Sonobe of Japan, she's just turned 17 on the 17th of January this year. She won that Aussie Open Juniors title, and in the end, it was very convincing. She won the final 6-love, 6-1, and in fact, all but the first.
She only dropped one set the whole tournament, didn't she? Yeah,
that's right. Only in the first match in the round of 64, but then she won every match thereafter in straight sets. So obviously very impressive.
Not even another tiebreak. Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. And obviously really impressive. But it's the juniors. But she was given a wild card into Abu Dhabi, and she got a wild card into the qualifying event where she took on Hailey Baptiste. So Hailey Baptiste was the 12th seed in the qualifying event. Hailey Baptiste is a player that's quite, she's 23 years of age, but she's fairly well established now. She's inside the top 100, so she's good. Going to be a fairly tough player to start off with, but you might think. But Sonobe came through 6-3, 6-1, comfortably in that first match. Although I think perhaps Baptiste was struggling physically a bit there, but then she goes through and plays another player. This time it's the Moldovan player Kristina Buksha. So another player. She has a lot of success in doubles.
The conqueror of Raducanu in Singapore.
Yeah, that's right. So coming in fairly decent form, but then she comes through in straight sets. Sonobe. So impressive stuff. And then when she gets through, she has to face another Asian player in Yuan Wei, of course. Someone that you have met in Seoul,
the true Queen of China.
And obviously Yuan, she is a very experienced player now, and she's in the middle of her career. She's 26 years of age now. Still ranked about top 50, right? So I think currently 51. So a solid WTA player. We know she plays well, strong from the baseline. She's got a fairly aggressive game. Yet it was Sonobe who came through again in straight sets. And, Sonobe, just having turned 17, for a player like that, she seemed to be remarkably calm when I saw her play in this tournament. And, I'd seen a little bit of her in the junior slam there, but you don't really feel that you can judge a player's abilities that well just from looking at the junior level. But obviously against a player like Yuan, you do actually get a much better picture of how she will fare. And I think that was the most impressive thing, that she was able to stay calm. She did lose one break in that match, and yeah, didn't seem deterred or rattled. And in fact, stayed extremely aggressive. She got on a lot of power, great timing, especially on that forehand side. She's a lefty. I could see her, causing a lot of players a lot of trouble with the way that she plays. And yeah, I still think, a little bit raw now, but just already, just barely 17 with the power that she has. I do think, and yeah, she's got a good serve as well. In that particular match, she hit 5 aces. Not particularly long match, and yeah, in the end, a well-deserved winner. And to illustrate how well she did, so winning 8.
That earned her a matchup with Ons Jabeur in the round of 16.
Yeah, so she goes through to round of 16, and it would have been either her or Ostapenko that she would have faced. And I did think, there was perhaps a chance that she might be able to get a result against them, and perhaps maybe more so if it was Ostapenko than Jabeur.
You were quite excited about that potential matchup, but you've had to wait until this week for a Penko Asia Bowl, which we'll talk about in just a moment.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Ostapenko and Jabeur not had the best of time lately, but so it was perhaps an opportunity here for Sonobe to be able to get the win. But in the end, it was Jabeur who came out a 6-3, 6-3 straight sets winner. Sonobe did get a couple of breaks, so we obviously got broken back. I think, in this match, Ons was showing pretty good tennis, to be honest. I mean, I think, obviously with the power that Sonobe has, that's the way that she plays her game. Powerful ground strokes and big serve, and then accurate. But I think the trickery that Jabeur has, she's able to, even when she was getting powerful shots to hit deep at her, she was able to almost pick it up like a half volley, and then she got those drop shots, the trickery in her game. And yeah, that was probably a big learning experience for Sonobe. So yeah, she did pretty well, I thought. I mean, I think obviously she was under a lot of pressure, maybe to go for her shots a bit more. So yeah, the errors did start to creep in, but nonetheless, you have to say it's a very impressive performance. This is her first. It was her first time in the main draw of a WTA event, or even in the WTA event. She comes through qualies, gets a win over Yuan, and losing to Jabeur, is really no shame in that. So yeah, this is just the beginning of her journey, and I think a lot of people are very excited about what she can bring. And well, we don't always want to get, it's always a danger to want to hype up players too much. You have to say, for a player of this age, she's done a lot better, than many of the other peers have done at that level and that stage. So yeah, people are excited about her potential, and
looking forward to seeing what's next. I know we've talked plenty, of course, about Mumbai already. Just want to briefly touch on that tournament last week, because it was a great run all the way to the final from the Thai player Mananchaya Sawankar.
That's right. Yeah. So I thought she might be able to go all the way this time, but yes, Mananchaya Sawankar, she's just been so solid recently, and she's been most recently just before this, and she played the Singapore event where she came through qualifying and then got to the quarterfinals and still took a set off the number 1 seed Kalinskaya, although she did lose that match. But yeah, I mean, that's been the first, the last in a series of ATP quarterfinals that she's made. I mean, since last year, couple in China that she made. So, and she's beaten players like Yuan, Bronzetti, and sort of more established players, and she's done well at the sort of ITF level, but she you know, and she also, I remember she got to the WTA 1000, won a match there, and then had a match against Sabalenka. But yeah, she managed to get all the way to the final in Mumbai. She had to play against fellow Thai player in the quarterfinal, Tara Rudi. That was perhaps that was her toughest match along the way to the final. Both players very good athletes, but I think Sawanko, she just has a bit more, because I did see some of that match, she's a bit more just stability in her game at the moment. Very good athlete, and seems to be calm even when she's under pressure. She just sort of backs herself to sort of be able to come back. And the most impressive performance for her of the week was the semi-final against the number 2 seed Rebecca Marino. I mean, that was just one-way traffic, really. 6-2, 6-2. I don't think Marino didn't have any break points. Sawanko, on the other hand, won 4 out of 16. So I mean, it's an impressive performance against a player like Marino, who, you know, she is a player ranked 109 in the world and has previously been in the top 50. When she did get through to the final, though, she was eventually stopped by, as you said, Jill Teichmann, who is from Switzerland, and she's the 5th seed, or she was the 5th seed. So, but she, you know, previously had been up as high as 21 in the world, Jill Teichmann, and she's got great power in her game, lefty. And, you know, she has that kind of power that you would expect from a player that plays and that has played or is up in that sort of upper, you know, echelons of the WTA Tour. And yeah, she definitely seems like someone who, you know, is going to be perhaps be able to get back towards it. I think she had a bit of time out injuries and then has been sort of building her way back up. I think she's had quite a lot of good results, Teichmann, recently. So yeah, positive for her. But I mean, again, for Sawanko, I think she, in that first set, she was difficulty dealing with the power of Teichmann. But when she started to get into it, they actually played some really exciting rallies. I mean, Sawanko, she has good sense, good anticipation. She's a good athlete, very fast down the court. She doesn't, obviously, she's not as big though as Teichmann, so maybe puts a bit of pressure on her to be a bit more aggressive. And I think, like, in the first set, she was struggling because she was getting pushed back and making errors. Yeah, and again, it's just sort of learning experience for her to play against these kind of players, and you know, perhaps you know, next time she might be able to get a foothold and perhaps win a set, and then, you know, maybe who knows from there. But all in all, it's a good week for Sawanko. I think she moves up to 115 in the ATP, no, WTA rankings.
That'll be the second time you said that, yes.
Yeah, so yeah, 115 is career best for her. And I think, you know, just the way how consistent she is at the moment. I mean, that's the thing that's impressive. You know, she's not having, like, she's playing pretty well every week. She's not like she's having, you know,
deep run and then a first round loss. Yeah.
For the most part, she's playing pretty solid. So yeah, I think, yeah, inevitable probably at this point that she will make the top 100, and, you know, from there on, you know, perhaps you're making slams, and you know, things can suddenly start going well for you. So we're looking forward to seeing how she does.
It's been someone who also burst her over in the past few weeks was Ito Ai. Her momentum did stall a little bit after her win in Canberra, I think it was. But she's been back in form this week. We'll turn now to talk about the Qatar Open, which is ongoing right now. I think poor old Aito is getting pencoed right at the moment, but she's done pretty well to even get to this stage, the round of 64.
Yeah, because she had to come through qualifying. So she came through both her qualifying matches against Anna Bondar and then Varvara Grasheva. And that latter match came through in straight sets. Currently literally now playing against Ostapenko, down 6-2 in the first set, but it's on serve at the start of the second set at the moment. But I mean, we've seen her rise, steadily up the rankings last year, and then she won that Canberra title, which was the 125 title, and she won it without dropping the set. And then obviously having gone to Australia, she lost in the first round in qualies. I think she got a tricky first round draw there, and a fellow Japanese player. And since then a couple of losses in the qualies in Singapore and Abu Dhabi. So to get through to here, Qatar is obviously a big tournament as well. And this is just what it's about, because she's got that unorthodox game style, and I think she's going to have to learn, because obviously I think it works well against a lot of players, but maybe some of the bigger power hitters, if they're playing well, it might be difficult for her. Obviously, she's playing against Ostapenko now. It just depends, though. But she's certainly got the ability to take a lot of players out of the rhythm. But now people are starting to learn about her, so she's not. If you'd never seen her before and you had to play her, or you didn't really know much about her, it's much more difficult than if you've had time to study how she plays. So if you're prepared for her, but that's what she's going to have to deal with, and she's just having to deal with a higher quality of player. So might take a little bit of time to get used to that, but we'll see how she does. I mean, it's she won't be far off as well, of course. She's at 120 in the rankings at the moment. She's another one, probably, it's still only 20. She will be expected to make that top 100, and from there, who knows? But
It knows, indeed. Obviously, it's a fluid situation, as that as many matches are in progress right now. But anything else we're going to be looking out for in Doha over the coming days?
Well, yes, certainly there is, because we will have the return of Zhang Qinwen. She is the number 7 seed here. Tricky first round. She'll get a bye because she is seeded. The first match she will play is either between McCartney Kessler or Ons Jabeur. So potentially quite an interesting battle against Jabeur. And obviously this is in Qatar, and I would expect Jabeur would have a lot of fans there. Potentially a little interesting little tie there. And looking as well around the draw, we also have Rybakina there as the number 5 seed. Mayuka Uchijima is currently playing right now against Yulia Putintseva. So we've got the Japanese
into a decider. Okay.
Yeah, into the third set. So that's Putintseva is now up a break. Yeah, it's 3-2 to her. So it's not a massive difference there yet, and so some time to go. So Uchijima, I think it's just taken a little bit of time for her to adjust, I guess, from stepping up from the ITFs and so on, and now she's well inside that top 100. I thought I was pretty impressed with how she was in the previous tournament, because she qualified for Abu Dhabi and played a tight match against Fernandez. I felt like she perhaps could have, because she was actually, I think, serving for that first set and then got broken and then lost the tiebreak and lost actually the match in 2 tiebreaks. Qualified again though here in Qatar. She beat Zakharova and Sonny Kartal. Sonny Kartal, Great Britain, is a tough competitor and also a WTA winner. She's obviously in a tight battle there with Putintseva, and I think with Uchijima, she's sort of knocking on the door in terms of trying to get sort of one of these bigger wins. So if she's able to do that, perhaps that will be like a little springboard for her to sort of kick on a bit. But she's not the smallest player. She's got a bit of power there as well in her game. So she does have a bit more potential, I think.
Okay, hopefully we'll see some more of her this week if she can just get through this final set. So turning across to the men's, the men, or Kei Nishikori, Yoshi Nishioka, Buyun Chaokete, they're all in Delray Beach this week for the ATP. It's 250, is it?
Yeah, ATP 250 event in Delray Beach in Florida. Buyun Chaokete is drawn against Rinki Hijikata of Australia. Probably a match that I would expect him to get through, but if he does go through that, he will have to play the number 1 seed Taylor Fritz. So that's obviously a big test for him. And then also in that little section, we've got Kei Nishikori, who plays against Mackenzie McDonald, who has a wild card. Two guys with sort of similar play styles, but again, you'd still sort of favour Nishikori there, but it's not the easiest first round for him. But yeah, for Nishikori, he'd certainly be hoping to get through the first couple of rounds and perhaps play Fritz in the quarterfinals, and who knows what will happen there. Yeah, a lot of names though in this little draw for 250. You got Lerner Tien there, with the wild card, and you've also got in that little section who came through qualifying, James Trotter, who represents Japan. Yeah, he came through qualifying, so this is actually his first time in an ATP main draw, and he will have to play Brandon Nakashima. So no easy matches here. And also in there we've got Alexander Shevchenko of Kazakhstan. He's drawn against a qualifier, Michael Moe, and potentially the winner to go on to play against Alex Mickelson. And last but not least, we have Yoshihito Nishioka, who actually was on a bit of a roll recently, which I should mention because he obviously won his 2 matches against Great Britain in the Davis Cup. That was against Fernley and Billy Harris. He won those in straight sets. And then he went on to get 2 big wins, Nishioka. Unfortunately, then had to that was in Dallas. It's just passed. It's the ATP 500. He beat Brandon Nakashima in straight sets, and then from a set down beat Francis Tiafoe. Unfortunately, in the quarters, he had to retire, although he was down 7-5, 3-2. Yeah, Ruud was leading. I mean, Nishioka's always been one that's had sort of been hampered by injuries at times, but he seemingly is still in the draw in Delray Beach. So yeah, it's a bit of I'm not entirely sure his situation there. He plays Alexander Vukic. Is it on paper? Is perhaps a match that he is certainly winnable? Obviously, some doubts with his physical conditions. So yeah, a bit of a shame for him. Having had that good few results for this to happen. But it's an interesting little tournament, so a lot of players in action there. So yeah, one I'm looking forward to potentially some really good matches there.
Plenty to keep us occupied this week. Okay, before we go, any other business this week?
I think it's just the in terms of Asian tournaments, we've still got challengers, ATP challenges going throughout India this month. So moving on, we now have New Delhi, where there's a tournament taking place, and we've just had Jiri Vesely qualify despite throwing up on match point.
He did hold that match point then.
Well, it went to juice, and then
Okay.
after a few points, he eventually got it done. But yeah,
right.
Yeah, not ideal. But yeah, there's a few interesting names there, so perhaps we'll be looking back on that one. And then, another little bit of news is with Chung. I think he was originally planning to play these series of tournaments in India, but I guess because his ranking a little bit low, he wasn't guaranteed to be able to make all the tournaments consecutively. So I noticed that he's actually entered ITFs in Australia. So I'm guessing he's going to be playing like a few tournaments there consecutively, because obviously with his ranking, he'll be able to get in there, perhaps in the main draw, or certainly in the qualies automatically, in these ITF events. So yeah, it's going to be something to look forward to. That'll be, I don't think that this week, yes, next week perhaps. So that'll be interesting to see, to look forward to. Obviously, Chung did win finally his first pro title in, was it 6 years or something? So
Right.
yeah, I mean, he's still showing that he's got that level in him. So yeah, we'll be looking forward to see if he can get some results again.
As we say, tennis never stops around the world. Thank you to Hanesh earlier. Thank you to Eddie as well, and enjoy your tennis this week.
Yeah, cheers.
4-6, 7-6.